Hey guys, you're about to watch an episode where I'm unpacking bed rotting. You may not have even heard of the term, but it's trending on TikTok. So, as a psychologist, we're diving in. What is this trend? And what is the contrast of bed rotting versus actual self care? If you'll get on our newsletter, we also want to invest in you, that you are a part of our community where you can invest in being the best version of yourself for your joy, your relationships, and fulfilling the call of God on your life. I'm invested in you, and it is my joy to go on this journey with you. Enjoy the episode. We all know that we need to do self-care. We know the ditch of running ourselves ragged. Perfection, performance, inner dictator, trying to juggle all the balls, roles, and responsibilities, and we're exhausted. So we know that we're supposed to do self-care. But what does that look like? What is actually beneficial? On TikTok, we're seeing trends of bed rotting, where people are showing footage of themselves in bed, watching devices, eating snacks, just staying in bed, vegging all day. And historically, I think we've all kind of done that at some point where we just stay in bed all day. It's not that you're vegging, it's what you're doing while you're vegging that matters. Bed rotting, if we use the definition that's trending right now of staying in bed, watching a device, TV, social media, snacking, laying there vegging all day alone, that actually could be depleting you more than you realize. The hard thing about our reality is most of the time we'll fall into one ditch or another, one extreme versus another. So if we go from the pendulum of working so hard, driving ourselves all week, that then you have to crash and burn in bed and you don't want anyone to talk to you or need anything and you're over it and you just want to watch your Netflix series and eat your carbs and you don't want to have one more responsibility, you're creating two ditches. And your life will forever look very bipolar in extremes. I don't mean bipolar like diagnosis. I mean like, hi, I'm working all the time and I'm crashing and I just don't even want to get out and go anywhere on the weekends. This is not healthy because you're actually depleting yourself instead of fortifying and truly replenishing. The definition of self-care is that you're actually caring for yourself. So as much as, maybe an hour or two of watching a show or being on social media, now that's not bad because there's 7 types of rest. But if that's the only kind of rest you're getting, you're depleting the other 6. It is great to get physical rest. And I would highly recommend that you have one day every week that you literally take the day off. You're not on, you don't have to perform, nobody needs or wants anything from you. It is an epic feeling. But most of the time, we don't let ourselves actually turn off and take the day off because our mind is still going. Because we're still thinking, we're still responding to messages, we're still scrolling social media, we're still trying to respond to that email, and we're not actually unplugging. So the reason bed rotting, based on the definition of looking at social media or watching movies and snacking in bed, is not good for you, because your inner world is still being demanded of. Neurochemically, you're still pulling from your energy. You're not getting sensory rest. We actually need silence. Mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally, and spiritually, we need to be replenished. And if you're just zoning out mindlessly watching something or scrolling through something, you're still using up and creating a deficit in your neurochemistry. And it's kind of like having a diet of cotton candy. We know we need calories. We know we need good substance to run our body. But if you eat chocolate and candy and cotton candy all day, you're not actually giving your body the building blocks it needs to flourish. TV, social media is like that. It hits the dopamine reward pathway that it feels good, and that's a nice feeling, so there's an illusion of it being good for you. But it's not actually giving you the building blocks of being seen and known, of being in rest, of having true silence, of being in nature, in beauty, in awe, of being able to create and innovate and express another side of yourself than you normally do. So let's go over the 7 types of rest. You have the kind of rest that's physical. So laying in bed, I think it's fantastic. 1 day a week, sleep in. Please do that. And then there's the mental, where you're literally giving your brain a break to not have to be on and think. And if you can't do that, and it's a struggle to turn all the mental chatter off, then therapy at Crawford Clinics may be a great resource, or anywhere else that you have locally to where you are. But the mental rest of not having to be on. And that's my hypothesis as a psychologist of why I think so many people fall in the ditch of bed rotting, because they don't want to think. They want the dictator, the thoughts, to be silenced. So they avoid their thoughts by getting engrossed in this thing that distracts me. But it's actually just avoidance, because you're not resolving why your thoughts stay on all the time, why you have the inner critic and the perfectionist and the unrealistic standards for yourself, or assuming you know what other people are thinking about you. And so it's easier to isolate rather than to engage. So we have physical rest, we have mental rest, we have emotional rest. That there's some of us that without realizing it, we hold weight and responsibility for our relationships. And you may have acclimated that you think it's fine, and you don't realize being a mom, being a husband, being a father, being a sibling, being a caretaker of an older generation, or being on emotionally for your employees or coworkers or even your boss. Whatever that role is, that can be a lot on your emotions. Can also be a lot on our emotions when we have trapped emotion in our own physical body from the past that's still hanging out and hasn't gotten cleared. And if you don't go through therapy and actually working through getting to the root of those emotions, then it will stay down there. And it's like forever playing whack-a-mole, where you're trying to push down all the trapped emotions. So we need times of rest where you visualize taking off the backpack of responsibility, of being responsible for anyone else's thoughts, emotions, experience. You don't have to be codependently on for anybody. And you actually take time to journal. So I have a day of rest. I am a big fan of staying in bed and journaling and processing and asking my heart, how are you? Is there anything that happened this week that I was so busy and going and didn't realize was kind of weighing on me? I want to take time to resolve that, to honor and actually care for my soul. That's again why the numbing of being in front of a visual device all day is not actually beneficial, because you're not being seen and known. Another aspect of rest would be the social kind, where you're investing and you're being invested in, and relationships are meaningful and thriving. But those don't happen without effort. And I don't mean codependent enmesh effort. I mean showing up, asking them, being present, and letting people see and know you. It takes a lot of emotional effort to do that. So I would encourage you highly to take a day off where you process your own heart, your own emotions. You're allowing sensory deprivation, where you're just turning off all the devices, all the technology, and just allowing yourself to be present with your own thoughts. That way, you're filling all those reserves back up so you have something to give to your spouse or your loved one, to your kids or your colleagues at work, or the people you serve on a board with. You'll have so much more to give if you just give time and opportunity for silence, for stillness, for what some might call Sabbath. When that happens and you get replenished, now you go into the next week with a good reserve. There's also a type of rest called creative. So with awe and wonder and allowing yourself to embrace a creative side of you that you normally don't. And that really awakens some brilliant, beautiful aspects of your soul that I'll notice as a business owner and a psychologist. Those are pretty linear and task-oriented. That if I can turn my device off, which it's hard, I get it. But if I can make myself start painting, I love it. If I can start writing a creative story or journaling or sketching or moving my body in a fun way or creating with a bunch of friends and going to like painting with a twist or something, there's a million different ways you can do it. And sometimes just putting on soothing music and cooking a really fantastic meal, turning off all those other devices and having a fantastic connection with another human being over a meal, savoring it. Whether alone or with somebody, it's both wonderful. And it can fall under the creative kind. And last, I would highly encourage that you take rest on the spiritual side, that you are a creative, unique being, a spiritual being, and allowing a sense of permission to rest spiritually. What that means is imagine that there's a God who loves you and he's wrapping you in his embrace and that you feel really seen and known, not for performance, not for works. You don't have to do anything. Nobody's demanding anything, especially not God. And you just get to place your head on his chest and you get to rest. You get to be seen and known when you allow your spirit to be in perfect harmony, to allow love to be seen and known. When that happens, now it's like your true self comes online and you lead so much more with bravery and capacity and agency. You know who you are and there's a decisiveness to you. So again, there are trends in our world. One of the current ones is this bed rotting situation, which the definition sounds like what it is. It is rotting your brain and it's depleting 6, not the physical because you're actually laying there, but it's depleting 6 of the essential types of rest that we need. So I would love for you to write down, what is the time block? What day am I going to pick as my day of rest to take the day off? Nobody needs anything. Nobody wants anything. Maybe you even get a babysitter. God forbid. Oh my gosh, you take time just for yourself. And it doesn't even have to be a date with someone else. It could be a date for yourself. And then you start writing down, how am I going to intentionally invest into mental rest, physical rest, emotional rest, spiritual rest, social rest, creative rest, and sensory rest. These are the things that we need for the whole system to come back online, be replenished, and then you can show up and enjoy being you. And people get to enjoy being with you because you're not showing up with fumes. You actually have abundance to give the world around you. Please don't fall for the trends that are going on in the world. Be educated to know there's a distinction. Staying in bed is great as long as you're investing in actual self-care, not avoidance. Because, as they've said, sitting or laying down is the new smoking. It can lead to blood clots. It can lead to cardiovascular issues. Exercise is so good for you. Endorphins come online when you allow your body to move and you feel powerful and strong and brave. And when you're leaning into human and spiritual relationship and self-relationship where you get to be seen and known. When you do that and you invest well and you're asking yourself, is today's rest of staying in bed, will it lead to long-term yield that my life in the future is better? Or is it just immediate gratification and maybe it's giving me pleasure right now, but in the long run, I'll feel like crap. I just ate a bunch of crap and now I'm like lumpy and my bed and I are kind of one. Ew, gross. No, thank you. You want to be rested. You want to be replenished with actual self-care. This is Dr. Shannon Crawford, and I am here to invest in you. And if you'd like to know more, meet us at crawfordclinics.com.